Hello, people. Let's go again. It's 6/6/2023, Tuesday. Cheers. This is someone's birthday that I know, but I can't think of who it is right now. I'll probably see it before the day is over. So happy birthday, somebody. Hey, people. I'm really happy that through looking at the comments that it really is very, very pleasing to know that me being transparent here and just talking about things is beneficial. I benefit from it, to be honest with you, and I see that others do too. And so that's it. I love it. That's encouraging. If you follow me on Facebook, I say things on there as well. At times, I'll just decide it's time to state something, and the feedback and the blowback and the is always interesting. I do find it also kind of a clearinghouse because yesterday I put one up where it's like regarding politics and how we just really need, in my opinion, to move forward from the left versus right dichotomy. I think that's the right word. And just a couple of people, one of them, and I'll say it because I don't know who watches this, because if you see it, next time I see it, we can talk about it. But my goddaughter's mother will say things where it's like she completely misses the point, and it points everything back to her. And that's like I'm saying, no, that's not the point of the post. It's not talking about you, it's talking about us, and what as a group of people, I think we ought to be trying harder to see our commonalities and try to get politicians to stop playing politics and to actually focus on issues and our commonalities, because the actual issues regarding human needs are all common. But that's not the focus, is it? It's capitalism. So anyway, so there's that. Trish, I'm glad you checked out some YMO. They are one of my favorite bands. They are. They really are. So yes, the tinnitus, I'm really not that surprised to hear so many of you suffer from it. How was mine this morning? It's better. It seems like when I start to wake up in the morning, when you have to go to the bathroom the first time, seems like it's, rather than being calmer, it seems like over as I sleep that it got stronger. And then as I wake up, as like right now, it's diminishing, and hopefully it will diminish more as the day goes. Okay? You folks are so kind to me. There's another VC member, record collector, who I've actually met a few times. His name is Dereck as well. Dereck Fisher, I'll say his name because he shouted out in yesterday's video that he was going to send me, he had sent me something. People, you honor me. It arrived yesterday. I still am blown away at people's kindness. No one has to send me anything, but people do. And Dereck sent me this. It's a reissue. It's a recent reissue of the band Federal Duck. No, I never owned this. This is a Psych, 1968, College Boys. Of note, the guitarist George Stavis, or however you say his name, Stavis, went on from this to do some solo stuff. I don't have any of it. This is a reissue on my favorite color, orange. Thank you. I'll mention you also, Steve Tuco Jacobs, because I understand that you watch pretty regularly. At the last record show that I went to at the Fireman's Hall, both Steve and Dereck were there, And before I ran into Dereck at the show, Steve was talking to me about how there was this guy that I ought to meet. You know, I said, well, I probably already met him. He said, oh, he's got this amazing collection. I said, yeah, he probably does. I do too. You know, I get like that, you know. I'll say this, Dereck Fisher, from what I see from the post, because he had the psychedelic page on Facebook for psychedelic records. I understand you're not there anymore, but it's somebody else running it. Come back, Dereck. What's the big deal with social media? Does it bother you? That I don't know what the deal is, but I can see from Dereck's post that he has a lot of records that I don't have that I want. Wish I had originals. But you know, I got a little testy with you, Tuco Jacobs. You know, I ain't seen. You know, you think you've seen what I have, you don't. I still can get in here and show you stuff I've never shown, and I've been on here for a dozen years now. So I was a little testy with that, but I'm smiling because it's a nerdy collector thing. You know, I would like to have all the cool records. I'd like to have them all. I sure would. So kudos to you, Dereck. Thank you for sharing the love. You say you got 2 copies down in Lincoln. Thanks for sending it to me. I haven't seen it up here. To be honest with you, if I saw it as the reissue, I would have thought twice about getting it, depending on what else was in the store. So thank you. That's a welcome addition to my collection. And you, Tuco Jacobs, with your bad self, driving all over the place, finding these records for next to nothing. I'm jealous of your records. It's a compliment to you guys, okay? Look at this. I'm nerdy. I love records. I'd like to have them all. So, to continue on the tinnitus, yesterday I was still taking it easy on my ears. So when this came, I was out front sitting. I actually spent some time with my neighbor across the street. A little story about that if I don't forget. Kind of funny to me, maybe it'll be to you. So when this came, I went on in the house and fired up the stereo. And thankfully, it's more on this side. Is it like that for you folks? Is it all over or is it more one side? For me, it's this side. I don't know why. The tinnitus. But it was like, oh, yes, this is enjoyable. What was happening last week was when I play music, it seemed to make the tinnitus actually louder. And then when I take the music off, it would actually be louder. So I was happy that when I played this, it did not make the tinnitus louder. It's like we're going to be okay. And I enjoyed it. It's kind of, you know, it's of the time. It's a little nerdy. You know, it's really white bread. But again, for me, it's a nostalgia trip in many ways about wanting these records and still wanting to hear a lot of these old records from the 60s and 70s. I still actually want to hear them. And I do. I enjoy them. And a big part of it is nostalgia. Okay? So after that, I was happy. I said, we're up to the races. I can play some music. And so I did. After I came in from visiting with my neighbor. This is a fun story for me. And so I'll tell it. So you folks that follow me know that directly across the street from me are my neighbors who I complain about at times because they get out of pocket. They get noisy and loud and silly and drink and fight. And I've been here so long, 30 plus years, that when I first moved here, the lady across the street, her name was Della, and she was raising her grandson. And I'm just going to tell the story because maybe they watch this. I ain't telling no lies here, people. That's why I go ahead and say this stuff. But she was raising her grandson, Octavius, across the street. And when I first started living here, when I first bought the house, among other things, I decided that something I would try to do is, continue with trying to do something for the neighborhood besides work. So I volunteered at this place just up the street called the Wesley House, which is a community center, activity center. And for a while I tutored after school up there. And my neighbor, it turned out that one of the kids that was that I was tutoring was Octavius. And I didn't know that at first, it came about that there's that burly kid. That's Octavius, lived across the street from me, okay? I could tell when he was a kid that he was going to be kind of a fuck up, okay? Again, I'm just being honest. Not that he's a bad person. I could just see that he was the sort of person that, impulse control. Anyway, yesterday I went across the street to sit with the neighbor next to Octavius, Gary. And I've had many neighbors in the house that Gary lives in over the years. He and his mom lived there for several years now. And I really like Gary. We're way different. He's ex-gang. But at the same time, we're very similar. So anyway, we were sitting over there talking. And one of Oc's friends comes driving up in a truck. This is not an unusual thing. Just stay with me, folks. Remember, this is my dear diary. I'll show another couple of records. But I'd seen this guy. So one of Oc's white friends, and he gets out and he's on crutches this time, trying to go to visit Octavius, and apparently he couldn't wake him. So I'm sitting next door with Gary, and the fella starts to hobble back to his truck, and he had already said hello, being very friendly. So I just yelled at him, well, what happened to you? What happened, man? So he comes hobbling over to us to hang. First thing he asks us is if we smoke, you got any weed? And it's typical, and I just said, hey, man, we're just hanging out. We're talking about health issues right now. Ain't nobody smoking this morning. But anyway, he was friendly, and introduced himself. And I told him a story, hey, your friend, because he mentioned they were trying to wake up, visit Octavius. I said, well, you ought to go over there and just wake his big ass up. I was his tutor when he was a kid, He said, oh, and then said, yeah, that's why I don't have that. I leave you alone. I'm honest. People say, I see how you act over there. I'll leave you alone. And he said something to the effect that, sometimes in my life, I could have made better choices, but he and Octavius used to work together, and apparently they're still buddies. But anyway, as we're talking, it comes up, what do we do, or what's up? And I mentioned, I'm a musician, and he gets interested, And so I just go ahead and say, well, I'm just a dude here in the hood like anybody else, but if you look me up, you might be surprised, And so he asked me my name again, so I told him again, and then he hobbled off, went back to his truck, I guess he's going to wait for a while before he tried to wake up Ock again. So anyway, I get done visiting with Gary and start to head back to my home and walk past the truck to my house. And as I'm walking, the fella in the truck says, hey, I'm listening to something pretty good here. And so I just kind of pop over to him as I'm heading to my house to see. He's listening to Future Still on Spotify in his truck. And his eyes are like this. And I just smiled and I said, yeah, that's me. That's fun. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Yeah, someone of note right across the street from you, people acting a fool half the time. I don't know if y'all see that. Maybe you'll think about some of the other folks in the neighborhood with you drinking and get acting a fool. Maybe have a little more respect. Like I said, I don't know who watches these. So to get back to music besides that story, I hope you don't mind, I played a couple other things. And I watched some music video. I like video music. I like music. I like watching people perform, and I like music video. But yesterday was Laurie Anderson's birthday. Happy birthday, Laurie Anderson. I've seen Laurie Anderson in concert 3 times, met her one of those times. Unfortunately, do not have the photo that was taken of us because I could never get a copy of it from the guy who took it, who has now passed away, and so there's no way to get it. But when I met her, I gave her a copy of my digital Sex 45, which she said, I'm going to keep this. I love it when people give me music. So anyway, I saw her perform this United States live over 2 nights at Walker Art Center up in Minneapolis. So this is not if you hadn't seen the production, I can see where this will be something like, I can't listen to all this talking and stuff. But since I saw it and the context and the visuals, her dancing and her interactive instruments, I listened to the whole first side, and as I listened, I could say, oh, now, yeah, that's what happened. There's a part in the first part where she puts a pitch controller on her voice and raises it up really high, and she's doing this thing on the violin and talking like a pixie, but then she goes into this thing about how she was watching Dolly Parton on TV or something, and then she starts to sing, and it sounds just like Dolly Parton. It's on here, and it's like, whoa, that is hilarious. The other thing I'll say about Laurie Anderson is when I met her, she was so gracious. There was a line of people waiting, to get her autograph and stuff. She didn't have to take time to talk to me, but she did. I do this, I was mentioning this over the years, that I'll say things when I get to meet musicians, where I like to show that I know a little bit about them. And I did that with her. Might have been something about the phone call recordings she made early on. Got her attention, and she wanted to talk. Wonderful. More on music. So the next thing that happened, I just followed my muse, depending on what's going on. I didn't have anything in particular going on yesterday, so I was back online for a minute on Instagram. I like Instagram, and I saw a Catherine Wheel post, and they posted a snippet of the video for the song "Crank," and it was like, man, I just need to hear that. Catherine Wheel was a cut above. This is the CD single. I have all these on vinyl. This one is a picture disc, so that's why when the song "Crank," it's like, man, that sounded good. Let me put it on. I put it on. Once again, heaven, because this is loud, and it's got the ringing guitars, which last week I couldn't handle. I heard the ringing of the guitars, not in my head. I still, to this day, I think Catherine Wheel is an extraordinary band, a cut above, too good for the average person. So I went on a jag, and I pulled up painfully. I have all these on vinyl, but for convenience yesterday I played the CDs. And this was my introduction to the band. I Want to Touch You, but it's the first two songs on this EP, Painful Thing, Shallow and Spin. Spin is wow. Even now, to me, I feel the power and the majesty. This music is majestic, and I can hear how the band are feeling it deeply. All the way to the drummer, the way the drummer just pounds that. And he also is wonderful where he, sometimes when you think the bass drum should be 2 beats, he just uses 1, and it works. Whereas I've heard drummers try to do that and it sounds lazy. He does it because he has so much power. He only needs to hit that bass drum once. I was off to the races. This is one of my favorite bands, still to this day. So I was on a jag. I got under that. Black Metallic. This is an anthem for them. It almost broke them big in America. It did help make them, known. But the thing about this was, it's the B-sides. As I was Crawling Over Me, Let Me Down Again. God dang. Now the other thing that I noticed, and I put up my picture of me and Bob Mould on Facebook today, kind of thinking about this, was as I'm listening, even stronger than ever before, I hear how much they were influenced by Husker Du, but took it to another place. Husker Du, very powerful, and I got to see them live and hung out with the whole band more than once, actually. But it was interesting to hear, there's a whole lot of Husker Du in the influence of this band, but they took it higher to me. They took it higher. Show Me Mary. Great song. And then this one, Balloon and Intravenous. I love to play along with these songs. So back in the day, often I would strap on my guitar, not the bass, but the guitar, and particularly play along with Balloon and Intravenous. Great songs. I could babble forever about how great that band is to me and how I love them. I'm friends with Dave Haw, the original bass player, on Facebook, and Brian Footer, the guitarist. Now, it's for real. Not that long ago, Brian Footer got a hold of me through Messenger out of the blue. He was looking for help with something. I wasn't able to help, but it was awesome that he got a hold of me. And we had a conversation. You know, I value that that stuff very, very much. So that's the music I can show. Now, I want to share because I don't have any records to show. I probably wouldn't buy any at this point. It depends. But some of the music that I watched on video yesterday was the band Obituary. Now, somehow I got onto a heavy, it wasn't necessarily Catherine Wheel, it was something I saw or something that got me onto the track of looking up the band Obituary. Those guys are fucking great. That's my idea of a great metal band, or whatever you want to call them. And they've gone through, there's a lot of variety to their songs. They don't all sound the same, which I really liked, but they play with that power. And they also have the old school, we can play these guitars till the day is over. So I watched a couple of live, almost all the way through, Obituary concerts. Recent ones, and then I watched an older one. And I'll be damned if they don't sound better now. Obituary. And then another band that came up that are not like them at all, but I ended up watching a couple of live Avatar shows. Avatar just played in Omaha. I almost went. I didn't go. But the whole concert is online, so I got to watch what I didn't see in Omaha. Interesting band. I think they're Swedish. But the guy with this face makeup, and he's got a powerful voice. I like it when he keeps it down low. I don't like that high stuff too much. Really enjoyed that. I like heavy music, people. I do. I'm not your typical, well, he looks like he's, aren't you into jazz? Aren't you supposed to be into jazz? Do you play blues? I got all that in my bag. Plus, okay? Plus. I was also looking at more stuff that Victoria Shen has done. Woman's mind-blowing. She's super creative. Super creative. So, yeah, I plan to get together with her again, like I said. And if there's some way that I can be constructively involved in what she does during her residency, I'll do that. So this is what's mostly on my mind today. I don't know if it will resonate like yesterday did with people. It's just, what's on my plate is what I share. Regarding childhood issues and other issues in life where things can be kind of dicey to think about or talk about or painful to talk about, something that has helped me with my issues, besides the work that I do and taking stuff that I've learned on the job and through continuing education. I was on that job for almost 30 years. So I learned about the power of atonement, the power of forgiveness. Atonement is an act where you actually say to someone that you feel like you've done them wrong, that you seek them out, or you very purposely approach them and ask and apologize. And this is something I've done several times in my life, much younger, for things where I inside felt like, yeah, I was in the wrong there. So much so that the last person that I ran into that I thought I owed an apology to was a revelation. Okay, and let me just share it in a briefly. One of the last atonements that really connected and was necessary was when I was a teen. I had borrowed some cassettes from a friend of mine, Jim. Never got them back to him. Only later did I find out how sentimentally important those cassettes were him, and I just lost them just by being a bonehead. We would play cassettes in the car when we would take these long speed-fueled trips to Denver and to the Rocky Mountains for weekends, and it was one of those times where I lost them out of the car. That one was cool. But the very last atonement that I thought I needed to do and had a chance to was my younger brother, rest in peace, had a friend named Eugene who would do sleepovers. And I would just mess with that boy. Bullying is basically what it came down to. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's my little brother's friend. These guys are kind of pests, getting in my business, getting in my space. And I never beat Gene up, but I would just at different times just be purposely unfriendly. Like do you have siblings? Even without siblings, y'all know what I'm talking about. In childhood, out of the blue, this is years ago, on the job, doing some kind of workshop conference out in the middle of Nebraska with mental health, and I'm one of the guest speakers at this thing. And it's one of those gatherings where a lot of patients and people who are in the mental health system, they're the people attending it, okay? I was a keynote speaker, okay? So anyway, it's also a meal. So as I'm there and getting my food or something, I see this person and they look vaguely familiar, and it turns out it was Gene. It was this kid, Eugene, but he's not a kid, he's a man now. And sorry to hear that that his mental illness took him out of the mainstream of life. He was like, he'd apparently been in institutions. I went up to him and said, "Do you remember me?" And his face just lit up. That first off was wonderful. He remembered me, and also it was good because we talked just a little bit, and then I said to him, "Gene, I just feel like this is something I needed, when we were kids, man, I would just be so shitty to you, and I want to apologize for that, Gene. I'm really, really sorry." He looked at me, and he just laughed. He says, "You got to be kidding, man. We was kids." It's just, I've always been nerdy and real thoughtful and overthinking shit, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, it didn't mean nothing to him. It was just me being a jerk, being an older, doofless big brother. So I'm glad that I never struck him. It was never like that. It was just more like just really stupid stuff, where I'd lock him out of the house, and he's supposed to be staying overnight, and I'd get him somehow fool him to go out of the house at night, and then I'd lock him out. Stephanie, you probably don't remember any of this stuff, do you? Maybe you do. So forgiveness, inside and out, is really important. I'll share this, okay, because this is a long one, and music is important. I'll tell you though, I wasn't surprised to hear about the tinnitus, but I'm sorry. I feel for you folks suffering from tinnitus. Dave Newhouse, wow. With all the beautiful music you make and you have that problem, wow. I hope you can get some relief somehow. I'm just going to, oh shit, it's lost. It's on my mind. Forget what it was. I could just talk forever. I forget this. It completely slipped. What was going to go on another tangent with regard to what I was talking about: atonement, forgiveness, and moving forward. Yeah, okay, this is it. I'm glad. I hope y'all don't mind. So I related the story to my sisters and nephew that they hadn't heard. I've told it to many friends, so I'm going to tell it to you all. I won't say the name of the person because the person was known in Omaha, so I won't tarnish him, okay? But when I was a small kid, My dad had problems with drugs. He was a heroin addict, and he would let things happen that normal parents wouldn't let happen. And he let a friend of his molest me when I was about 9 or 10. I still, for all these years, I remembered the scenario where, for some reason, he took me along on this trip to one of his friend's house or apartment. And while we're there, and I'm sitting there and don't know why I'm there, I noticed this pornography on the table, on the end table, and it was kind of bizarre. So I'm already kind of like, what's going on here? And that was the last thing that I could remember consciously all these years until this event, which happened this maybe happened 20 years ago. I'm 67 now. This maybe happened 20 years ago. I had to get some equipment. I had to go buy some music equipment for a show that I had or something like that. So I had to go to a local store. I won't say which one because that'd give too much away. But as I walk in the front door of the store, the proprietor of the store is servicing a customer as I'm walking in the store, just innocently, But he looks up from working with the customer, sees me walking towards them, just innocently. His eyes get big as saucers like this, and he jumps up from what they're doing and runs into the back of the store, into the back room. And I'm kind of going, what? And in that instant, it came back in a flash. I had suppressed the memory of the molestation. It was, traumatic. This big white man doing this stuff to me, I had completely blocked it out until that moment. I said, that's the motherfucker that molested me. But he didn't come back out while I was there. I had to do my business, So this was all like, whoa, and it was like, made my head spin. It was really like heavy, So anyway, years later, at a funeral for my friend's wife, who had passed away, rest in peace, Liz, passed away much too young. But I'll give this much away. The person's in the music community like me, okay? So my friend Mark's wife, Liz, she sang on some of the Fresh Air albums with Chip Davis, okay? Liz Westphalen. I ran into this dude again at the reception after the funeral. I'm just minding my own business. I don't think nothing. I'm just getting ready to go up and get into the line to get some food, and I spot him, in the line already. And as I go to get in the line behind him, I'm just like, whatever, But he sees me and he starts to seize up again, literally in the line like this, like with fear, and And it just came to me like that because I'd been working psych already, and just I already knew what to do. Instead of going to the back of the line to get in the line, I stopped, walked right over to him, and just like that said, "It's okay, I forgive you." And I walked away. And that really, really made a difference in how I feel about me. Don't let people have power over you. They ain't got no power over you. Okay, that's a lot, man. Let me be quiet. Talk to me, people. Let me know what's up.